Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining today's webinar. As electric buses become more important and more common in fleets, the need for efficient operations grows too. So one key element in making the most of the vehicles is smart and reliable charge management. So that's exactly what we'll be diving into today. My name is Shane Bedford, INIT Sales Manager for Australia and New Zealand, and I will be your host for today. Our panelists are Daniel Benz, INIT's Director of Sales, and Heiko Bauer, INIT's reigning expert on zero-emission buses. So thanks for sharing your knowledge with us today, gentlemen. Just for the audience, if you have any questions, please use the Ask the Staff a Question function in your control panel and write your questions in the text field. I will note them down and ask our experts at the end of their presentations as well. Before we jump in, just before today's agenda, I just want to say it's great to see such a big turnout. Honestly, it shows how much interest and momentum there is around this topic, and that's really encouraging. Today we'll cover some key ideas and best practices for transitioning to battery electric buses. It's a big topic. The truth is, every organisation is at a different stage of facing different challenges. So if something sparks a question or you want to dive a bit deeper into how this might apply for your operation, we'd be happy to arrange a one-on-one call with one of our panelists in the coming days. All right, let's take a look at today's agenda. So first off, we'll do an introduction to the INIT group, who we are, what we do, the core challenges in terms of transitioning to electric vehicles. We'll cover off smart charging of electric buses, and then we'll end with a conclusion as well as a Q&A session.
So also welcome from my side. Before we now go into the topic of electromobility, I would quickly like you to introduce you to INIT. I mean, we are a provider of integrated ITS solutions for public transport. We're headquartered in Karlsruhe in the beautiful southwest of Germany, area called the Black Forest, you might have heard of. We were founded in 1983 as a spin-off from the KIT, Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, one of the leading institutions here in Germany for computer science. We're not limited to Germany, obviously. We have a truly global footprint with locations all around the world. Our focus markets are the North American market with the US and Canada, Europe, Germany, the UK, where we are just implementing, for example, the fleet management system for London, the Middle East and the Asia Pacific region, and we have also established a footprint in Australia and New Zealand. INIT Australia was founded 15 years ago with an office in Brisbane, and we just recently opened up a new office in Sydney in the Salesforce Tower, which is just at Circle K. I've not been to the office yet, but I heard it's a very nice location. So if you happen to be in the area, just stop by. Obviously, our colleagues would love to welcome you, but I also would be happy to visit you in your areas, in your offices. So as I said, if going back to INIT, as I said, those not familiar with INIT, leading global provider of integrated IT solution for public transport, and our portfolio is designed to address the full spectrum of operational needs for public transport. We here's some numbers. We have more than 1,400 customers worldwide in the transport area. 40 years of experience, mentioned that, over 40 locations, 1,400 employees worldwide, and some impressive number is that we've equipped over 220,000 vehicles worldwide with our devices. Also in the area of electromobility, we've already have installed, for example, more than 35 charge management systems. We'll get to the charge management later today. So you see that you would be in good company working with us, and obviously we would love to have you on this slide as well. What's special about INIT is what we offer is that we cover the full process chain of public transport, and we offer solutions for every step. So we have systems for planning, dispatching, we do ticketing and fare management, we do fleet management systems and real-time passenger information, analysis and optimizations, and also, and that's the topic of today, it's electromobility. And electromobility covers, I mean, it cuts deep in all the process of your operations and also your planning. So it's not just a single solution you would need; it affects all areas. Some milestones. Also, electromobility is not new to us. In fact, the division my colleague Heiko is working on, who will talk about charge management, the focus of today, later on. They started with electromobility as early as 2008 in the automotive world. So it's, I mean, we're almost dinosaurs in that area. In public transport, we had our first bigger projects in 2019 within Europe. Germany has been the leading country in the transition of the transition to zero emission transport. And in 2019, we equipped BHH, which is the one of the two Hamburg public transport authorities, and they operate the biggest fleet in Germany in electrobuses. In 2020, we expanded internationally with two bigger projects with Keolis one in Netherlands and the other in Norway. 2021, we had a first project in the US, for example, with Goveroli. 2022, we had the first project in Africa, in city of Dakar, where we also installed a charge management system. And 2023, we were able to welcome Barcelona and Brussels as one of our as our customers. Barcelona has a fairly big fleet of over 800 vehicles, electric vehicles, and over 200 charge points. And one major step for us was also 2024, where we started with projects with MTA, which is the New York authority, with over 500 charge points, and King County, which is Seattle, with over 800 buses. So yes, we're focusing today on one of the most significant transformation facing public transport. It's electromobility. Electromobility is nothing short of a complete paradigm shift. I mean, it affects all areas of our operations and changes the processes and the way we work and operate, from planning, dispatching, operations to charge, and also in the depot. But and that's an important sentence here. But it can be mastered. So no worries, as you guys say in Australia. As I said, it's a very complex landscape of challenges. I mean, here's just some of the questions you might have when you start, looking at that transition. I mean, from making sound investment decisions and managing operational costs to implementing a comprehensive electromobility solution, the path to electrification requires careful planning and execution. I mean, it's crucial to consider all aspects of the transition, focusing on streamlined operational processes and efficient management for your e-bus fleet. So that's where we come in. We understand the challenges. We've deployed a comprehensive suite of solutions designed to simplify your fleet's transition to electromobility. And yeah, you're not alone. We're partnered with you throughout the entire process, from initial simulation and planning to ongoing operations optimization. What we've done, we've created a short guide, which we call the 7 steps to e-mobility, or the 7 steps to run an e-bus fleet, which should be considered. I would like to go with you through those. So first step is the deployment concept. So What we see is that PTOs often start with the use of one or more test vehicles. They're typically deployed in the morning or afternoon peak blocks with a shorter or more volatile range is unlikely to have a negative effect. In a lot of instances, in a lot of countries, this meets the initial political requirements while minimizing the impact on ongoing operations. So you have a little test run, so to speak. But from an economic point of view, obviously, that's not enough. I mean, you want to optimize your fleet usage. You want to have the buses not only run on shorter blocks, but as long as possible. It's therefore important to find ways to have them run on longer blocks as well. I mean, various factors have an impact on the energy consumption and consequently on the range of the vehicle, like the topology of the route, the number of stops and starts, the individual driver style and driving styles, up to 20% actually, the size of the battery, and outside temperature on any given date needs to be considered. And in order to evaluate that, I mean, you need the support of a powerful planning or simulation tool, and that's where we come in as well, where we have one which is called eMobile Plan. Such tool will allow you to simulate and optimize numerous deployment scenarios or block variations while considering additional vehicles or drivers that may be required. And comparing all these scenarios ultimately makes it possible to make a sound decision on the right deployment concept and strategy based on reliable economic data. Okay, once you've done it, once you've run the simulation, we go to step 2, which is the charging concept. And so the next step would be the right charging strategy. So it's either charging in the depot or charging on road, or a combination of both. So these scenarios need to be calculated through as well. I mean, depot charging reduces the infrastructure-related investment costs, although it limits how flexible an e-bus can be used. On the other hand, it increases also the amount of electricity that needs to be made available on a shorter time frame, so usually overnight. So you need to analyze your energy demands and also plan for extreme weather. The most decisive factor actually on the energy demand is the outside temperature. So saying this for Australia, you have extreme weather. So heating and cooling in different weather conditions can up to double your energy consumption. Okay, third step is the charge management. That's the main focus of today. Heiko will give you a lot more details on this. But as I said, once the charging strategy has been determined, the charging process needs to be managed in a smart way in order to keep the ongoing costs as low as possible. Total power load must be balanced to avoid expensive load peaks. Charging should also be easy on the battery. I mean, if you've bought an expensive vehicle, I mean, you want to use it as long as possible, obviously. Charge management, and the charge management, in our case, our product is called Mobile Charge, controls all charging processes centrally and automatically. Automatic scheduling ensures that the buses are charged at the lowest cost times. And yeah, real-time monitoring prevents breakdowns before they happen. Number 4, it's then the depot concept. So the depot plays, as you know, public role in a central role in all public transport companies. So depot workers ensure that the vehicles are ready at good time for the operation the following day. Obviously, that's nothing. That's the same with electric buses, and charging can be controlled in a smart way if the charge management system is connected to the depot management system, as the depot management system holds the required information on the blocks scheduled for the next day. To effectively ensure all vehicles are charged at the capacity, the charge management system requires information on energy demand and pull-out times, and this helps staff to assign charging slots and times, and avoiding expensive peak loads. And it's not reasonable to do this manually, and when you have a bigger fleet, it's not even doable. So you need help with a system that can do this automatically. And it also does more. I mean, the charge management, if the interaction between the depot management and the charge management system reveals that not all blocks are can be completed as planned, the DMS, the depot management, will adjust the blocks or even generate additional blocks and duties for the next operating day, which then are subsequently submitted to your fleet management system. So that ensures that, you know, automatic duty ensures relocation ensures that no bus is left behind, and that real-time updates get on the fleet so you have no surprises and no delays. Number 5 is just block and duty optimization. So not much to say here. It's just advanced scheduling ensures buses can be complete their route without issues, and you should also seasonal planning accounts for the higher energy, as I said, in your extreme temperatures. You should optimize this, and data-driven adjustments maximize uptime and driver efficiency. Brings me to stage 6, and that's the range monitoring and prediction. The battery current state of charge needs to be monitored not just by the driver, but also in the control center. And it means that the electromobility needs to be also be integrated with your most important management tool. It's your fleet management system. And our fleet management system, which is called Mobile ITCS, provides the dispatchers with a quick overview of the vehicle's current state of charge. Dispatchers get real-time alerts for low charge situations, and variable factors as well as static ones, such as typical battery consumption, topology of the planned route, need to be taken into consideration when calculating the vehicle's remaining range. The temperature of any particular day also needs to be taken into account, as well as the individual driving style of a driver. So that can also have an influence, as I mentioned earlier. Based on all these factors, mobile range, which is our tool for range prediction, uses appropriate statistical analysis and state-of-the-art AI to generate a model for each vehicle's individual battery consumption for specific route sections. And we also have a driver's assistant tool to ensure smoother and more energy efficient driving. Last step is just the continuous optimization. So use real-world data to continuously refine and routes and schedules. Train your drivers on energy saving techniques that cut costs further, and predictive maintenance that keeps vehicles on the road longer and reduces breakdowns. Okay, so these were the 6 steps. Here you have just an overview of the steps and how they how the different modules of our comprehensive product suite work together. So on the left-hand side, you have the simulation planning, which is called our mobile plan simulation tool, which is, by the way, also available for on a rental basis. Allows you to simulate e-buses, how e-buses might be used in your company. We also have a tool for the consumption analysis. It's called Mobile Echo Square 2. That system promotes energy efficient driving and tracks actual energy consumption, along with influencing factors such as the vehicle's use, the driver, the topology, the route, as well as weather conditions and weather reports, the historic information. And it also can give the driver immediate feedback to make sure, when he's braking or accelerating too hard, or encourage more energy efficient driving style. From the planning, the information goes into the depot management system. As we learned, depot management system again interacts with the charge management system on the blocks of the next day, and charging requirements, pullout times. It even adjusts blocks and driver duties should become necessary. and the charge management system controls all charging processes. Heiko will tell you more about this in a minute. And the depot management also exchanges information with the fleet management system, which allows continuous monitoring of the all vehicles' current state of charge, and dispatchers get warnings if and can intervene if a route or a block cannot be completed. And underneath, we have a central range prediction tool, which it's called, in our case, it's called Mobile Range, and that central service is calculates the range of vehicles based on vehicle-specific models, taking into account numerous other static and variable factors, along with the historical operational data. So that's the road. These are the 7 steps. So I think we've learned now. We've now optimized our eBus deployment, our scheduling, and our energy use. But there's one factor that ties it all together, and that's new in the process when you have electromobility, and that's charging. And that's why this is the focus of today, because charging affects cost, reliability, and daily operations. And if that's inefficient, everything else suffers. And critical questions to ask are you paying too much for electromobility because of peak loads, or are your buses fully charged and ready when you need them? Do you have a backup if a charging station fails overnight? Just some of the questions. Hopefully Heiko can answer, so I'll pass you on to Heiko, and he will give you more insight on what is charge management, how it works, and why you need one. Heiko?
Hi there, guys. Thanks, Daniel, for handing over to me. My name is Heiko Bauer. I'm very happy to talk with you guys today about charging. So while Daniel has shown us all the well-known processes of a transport operator, like planning, dispatching, and fleet management, and all of that stuff, all of these processes need some adaptations when you transition towards electromobility. But there's one process which is totally new and unknown, and that's charging. So because charging is simply different than fueling, what you've done during the last 100 years. I have a few slides about, what's new. So what do you need to manage and to control? I have some basics about charging, basic information to understand a bit better what it is about. And I'll be talking about standards and how to integrate the charge management system into a IT landscape you likely have in place. So there are systems you can and you should integrate with. And finally, I have a sneak peek on our application, which is called Mobile Charge, and which is in place with more than 30 operators worldwide today. And we are charging buses since years every night. So what is really new about charging? So I said already, so charging simply takes longer than fueling. So fueling a bus, we are talking about minutes, and charging it's rather hours. And this has impact on your operation. You need to just reserve a bit more time for this process. Then if you plug in an electric bus to a charging stations or also a passenger car, what happens is that the vehicle immediately asks for power. And it starts immediately with the charging process. And if you imagine that it happens with several buses more or less in parallel, it has impact on the electrical network, on the local grid, and which ultimately leads to high peaks. So imagine 5, 10, or 20 buses starting the charging process at the same time might lead to let the lights go out in the neighborhood. So that's sometimes really an issue. So you'll have planned and unplanned interruptions. So there might be given by the vehicle because battery is too hot, for example, then the process gets interrupted and gets paused and needs to resume. It might be triggered on the charging infrastructure side. I mean, these are all regular processes, but besides that, there might be interruptions which are unplanned because of failure in the system or whatever, and you need to manage that. And you need the buses to be charged the next morning. So, and you don't want to be the one going to the bus the next morning and it is not charged because the process was interrupted during the night. So the remaining charging time is mostly unknown on arrival, and you need to know that. I mean, for reliable operation, and you see there are some new challenges which you simply had not in the past without the diesel buses. So how do we address these challenges? I mean, first of all, it's important to connect all the charging stations to the control center to make visible in a central place what really happens out there in the depot. And I mean, there are standards to do that. And if you have that done, you have at least visibility. So that's really one major step to be able to monitor what's going out in the depot. So make it visible. Yeah. Next thing you need to do is you need to control the charging process. I mean, you take care that not every bus starts charging at the same time, so that you have some time during the night and you should start to utilize it. So if you have an application which offers control over the charging processes, will be very, very helpful. You'll need to integrate this application which gives you access to the process into an operational IT environment. So that means you have a lot of information available, which is helpful. So for example, you know, the good news for the public transport sector for charge management is that you have a departure time for a bus. And if you have a departure time for a bus, you can optimize the charging process accordingly. So that means that you start later, you have an idea how about the power you need to provide and so on. So you can use that as a very key information for optimizing the charging process. And finally, another point which is also important in cold and warm regions, so that you trigger a preconditioning process as long as the bus is connected to the charging station. So that means preconditioning means bringing the battery and the cabin to a certain temperature. And that costs a lot of energy. So this is a process you have to start, or we highly recommend to start as long as the bus is connected to the charging station. So automatically preconditioning is also very helpful to get, I mean, to increase the range you have available for this for the blocks, and to avoid to consume the energy for bringing the cabin to the appropriate temperature. So these are some ideas or some solutions how we address the two challenges coming with charging. So I mentioned I'll have some basic information. So I mean, what basically happens during a charging process. What means smart charging? So it's a common word, but I'd like to take a look what it really means. And two important terms are charging profiles and charging strategies. The left graph shows a scenario where the charging process is totally uncontrolled. So you can see an arrival time and departure time and charging power. And if you, I said it already, so if you plug in, then the vehicle takes immediately to the energy it can get. You know? So it tries to get as much energy as possible, and in order to reach a short time window for the charging process. So it means you need high power for a restricted time. So, and after that, you completed your charging process and the bus is sitting in the depot and waiting to depart. So it means there is a long time without charging, a long period without charging, and the bus is standing there. So it means you charge with high power, you do it immediately. So it's not good for the battery, it's not good for the grid, it's expensive, it might lead to peak loads if you go with an uncontrolled charging. So what we do with charge management and with smart charge management is we control power over time. So that's important, to control power over time. And we move this green block over time and move it towards, I mean, we utilize the time window we have. So you can see between arrival and departure time, there are hours. And we utilize this time window to reach a higher goal. So a higher goal might be lower costs, might be higher reliability or whatever, but we utilize this window. Yeah? And ultimately it leads to buses charged, to have the buses charged until departure time, of course, because that's key. But we have enough time available to do it in an optimized way. So that means charge management or smart charge management. So how can we do that? We need a charging profile. So a charging profile is a graph which determines how much energy is provided at a certain point in time. So, and the charging profile, I mean, you can see it's the red line here, which is around the green block now. So it defines when energy is available, how much energy is available, and how long is it available. Yeah. The charging profile can be applied to a particular charging process, like it is displayed here. It can also be applied to a group of charging stations for a certain reason. It can be applied to the whole depot. I mean, it's just, and it can stack, of course. I mean, it can have a charging profile for a depot, for a group of chargers, for a charger, and for a single charging process. And by that, you control over power over time. So how do we get from a charging strategy to charging profiles? I mean, this is another simple example. I just stacked to charging, uncontrolled charging process. So suppose you have two buses arriving at the same time at the depot, plugged into a charging station, and both buses start immediately with a process. This is what we don't want to have. So, and that's why we defined a very simple charging strategy. It says, I mean, stay underneath the red line. This is, you can think of that, the limitation of a depot, and have an automatic power split. So one charging station, two connectors, and let's start with the first process early, add the second process later in order to reach the departure time. And as soon as the second process starts, automatically split the power. I mean, that's a very simple charging strategy, and it helps you to, I mean, first of all, to understand how it basically works, but also, I mean, to control the power which is provided on this particular charging station. So there are, I mean, very simple charging strategies and also advanced strategies. I mean, it's simply the limitation of power per depot is an example, or you can have a prioritized charger group. That means we have 10 charging stations left and 10 stations on the right side, and the left side has higher priority, so you can charge the buses there, which needs to leave earlier. Or imagine you have a row of buses and you need to take care that the first one leaves first and the last one leaves last. And the first station, of course, needs a higher priority. So this is also a very simple charging strategy. But it goes up to, I mean, tariff optimization, battery lifetime optimization, renewable energy integration. So there are really, really valuable ideas how to define smart charging strategies. So we learned a bit about charging profiles and charging strategies and how they play together. I'd like to talk shortly about standards and the IT landscape. So you see the charge management icon in the middle of this slide, and we've outlined the standards we utilize for our application, and we highly recommend you to put into your tenders in order to reach interoperability with the relevant market players. We have, of course, between the charge management application and the charging infrastructure, OCPP, which is the standard a protocol for communication between application and charging infrastructure. It's available in different versions, but it's OCPP. This is the key protocol to support. And it's also the most minimal system you can imagine. It's a charge management system which talks via OCPP to the charging infrastructure. So between bus and charging infrastructure, there is ISO 15118. This is the smart charge protocol. It's the industry standard for all electric cars and buses and trucks, ISO 15118. On top of that, you have the VDV 261. This is a protocol which is for preconditioning. So it's important to mention that VDV is the German Association of Transport Companies. And they are very, very good in working on standards and publishing standards. And it comes from Germany, but it's applied in many countries in Europe. And we've seen it also in tenders in North America and also in Australia, that these standards are adopted because there are simply no others. Yeah. So VDV 261 is important for preconditioning. And another one to mention is the VDV 463. So this is important for integrating depot management system with charge management system. So via the VDV 463, we receive the departure time, or we receive a charging window a bus can use for the charging process, and we calculate then charging profiles down to the charging station. And if we get the information that we cannot complete a charging process for whatever reason, we hand it back to dispatching. So we give that information back to the depot management system to take action. Yeah. So there are some ways, we are able to resume processes which got interrupted, or to some extent we can fix it on our own, but when we see we can't fix it and we need dispatching measures, then we hand it over to the depot management system. So important, there are a bunch of standards supporting integration, and we recommend that you take a look at that when you're working on tenders or when you're selecting your suppliers. It's important for interoperability. All right, so here's a bunch of charging stations we integrated already. So you can imagine with more than 30 projects worldwide, there are a bunch of charging infrastructure suppliers to integrate with. I'd say the most common one with ABB, with Hitachi Energy, Kempower, ChargePoint, Siemens, of course. So all of those guys speak OCPP. There are different flavors, but we are aware of that and we're able to support it. So finally, I'd like to take a sneak peek on our application. So this is Mobile Charge, the dashboard of Mobile Charge. You can see, the menu on top, we have a charging plan, we have a charging station monitor, vehicle monitor, so different angles in case we are locally integrated into the grid. So we also have a substation monitor to get information from the substations. In this dashboard, you can see the energy monitor, which gives an idea of what we expect to have. So in terms of power offered, power limitations, what is planned, and also the history. So what happened today, so until now. We have a notification center which gives you messages in case something goes wrong, in case there are serious interruptions or faults or whatever. There are notifications, and there are also critical charging processes displayed. So whenever we see a process cannot be completed as planned and needs an action, so then we also bring it to the front. So that's the dashboard. This is a basic charging plan. So on the left-hand side, you see the charging stations. Then you see processes with a certain with a defined start and end point and where they are at. And so you can take a deeper look at the stations, so the history of the charging process on this particular station, or you can take a look at the vehicle and the charging history of a certain vehicle. So different angles to look at the same thing. Ultimately, we are looking at charging processes. All right, so that's the application. So of course, a graphical representation of the depot and the buses in the depot. to make it easier to monitor the buses and the charging processes. Yeah, so I mean, we've seen that charging is it's a completely new process for you to work with or to implement. We've seen that it's important to make it visible in a central place what's going out there in the depot, so that you're able to monitor and to control it to some extent. So it means you need tools. If you have the appropriate tools, you're able to master this new challenge. So that's an important point. We've learned what are charging profiles and how they are applied to charging processes or to stations or depots. What we also do is we have a vendor neutral integration. So we integrated our application with the industry leading charging station providers based on open standards. So that's really recommendable. And ultimately, it's all about the charging strategy, because the charging strategy saves you money and makes your operation reliable. And the operation is, the centerpiece of all our efforts, and it's a goal for our application to improve your operation. Yeah, I mean, that's it from my side. Thank you very much for your attention. I'd like to hand over to Shane.
I wanted to thank Daniel and Heiko for the insightful presentation, and a big thank you to all for joining us today. If there is any follow-up questions after this about implementing battery electric buses or charge management, just feel free to reach out to me. I've got a QR code on the screen there. Happy to have a conversation following this webinar as well. One last thing, after the webinar, there's a short survey pop up, so if you have a few minutes, if you wouldn't mind filling that out. But thanks again. I hope everyone has a great Easter long weekend, and all the best. Goodbye for now.
Thank you.